Okay, Slovakia-Romania has finished 1-1. This was the game I was watching this afternoon at Euro 2024. Ukraine-Belgium was the other game in the group, finished 0-0, and apparently was even worse than England-Slovenia last night. So I did choose the right game to watch because both these sides went out with positive intent. They both went for the game for the win, not for the draw, even though the draw would have seen them both through anyway, which is what happened with the 1-1. But you could definitely see both sides wanted to win this game and score as many goals as possible. Now, in the end, it was only a 1-1. Both goalkeepers have had very good games. Both sides could and should have scored more, potentially. But Nitsa in the Romanian goals had a very good game. Dubravka in the Slovakian goal has had a very good game. But the weather had a part to play, as did the playing surface, and that's more noticeable in the second half when the weather changes. It really is a tale of two halves because it's 1-1 at half time. Duda with the goal for Slovakia after 24 minutes. That's a brilliant header. But here's the thing, Romania did struggle all day with crosses, free kicks, corners and throw-ins into the box, clearing them and dealing with them really effectively, which put a lot of pressure on Nitsa, who had a very, very good game in goal. But the header from Duda on that second phase, yes, Romania finally sort of deal with the initial phase of play in the box, get it out. But that's a great run from midfield. That's a great cross in. That's a great header. And Slovakia had worked out this was Romania's weakness, was balls into the box, whipped in at pace. But they're not in the lead for very long. Within 10 minutes, there is the lengthy VAR check. Now, Hadji is brought down. Was it inside the box? Was it outside the box? This was a lengthy check. Yes, we've got the right outcome, but it was a lengthy check, and we've seen VAR being very, very effective at this tournament. Very few VAR decisions have been long, drawn out, and controversial. We've seen a couple, but not many. VAR has worked really, really well and hasn't overshadowed the spectacle and the football. But this one was the correct decision. It took a bit of time to come to that decision. Now, in the end, the penalty is given correctly. Marin hammers it home, sends Dubravka the wrong way. And at this point, you're thinking, well, we're finally balanced. Because there was a period where Slovakia looked like they could get a second. And when that equaliser goes in towards half-time, thinking Romania, the momentum swung back. Now, half-time comes, second half, the weather completely changes. The thunderstorm and the heavy rain comes. Now, this did have an impact on the game. The pitch at Frankfurt has been a discussion point throughout this tournament. It's been cutting up. It does look very worn, does look very tired. While it's still a much better playing surface than the playing surfaces older fans will remember from the 90s and before, which were mud baths at this time in the season because they were absolutely hacked to pieces and may have had to be relayed 2 or 3 times by this point in the season. While the playing surfaces are so much superior to what they were 30, 40 years ago, and I remember the pitches from the 90s, they were dreadful. And I remember playing as a school kid on the playing fields when, after the end of September, they weren't mud baths until March, potentially April, when you were playing any sport at school. But that pitch at Frankfurt has been cutting up. You can see it's got divots out of it. It's a bobbly surface, and the rain then came down, and it came down hard. It didn't seem to be slowing down the players. There were still shots going in at both ends and opportunities. The tackles were flying in. The goalkeepers were using the wet surface to slide out and diffuse balls along the ground. But then as the game wore on and more rain fell, you could see it was starting to fatigue the players. There were a few players slipping and sliding. And as the second half wore on, the pace did drop out the game slightly. You could see the fatigue factor kicking in because the temperature at kick-off, bearing in mind it's 6 p.m. kick-off local time, so 5 p.m. UK time, was still 30 to 32 degrees Celsius, in that range. We're talking low 30s at 6 p.m. in Frankfurt with a very, very high humidity. By the second half, we're looking at more 7 p.m. local time, 6 p.m. UK time. We're still talking high 20s, and then the thunderstorm comes. So I think the rain might have given some relief to the players and fans with slightly reducing the temperatures, but the humidity is still high. And you could see at the end of the game when both sets of players, when full-time goes, both sets of players are out on their feet. But I will say this right now, both Slovakia and Romania, with a testing pitch and changeable conditions and heavy rain in the second half, that was a very open, entertaining game. They both deserved to go through to the next round. They both played the game and approached the game in the right way, even though a 0-0 draw would have suited both sides and we could have seen a really dull, aimless, low energy, low intensity affair. Both sides wanted to try and win this game to guarantee a smoother passage into the next round. They couldn't just rely on Ukraine or Belgium doing them a favour. They had to go out there and at a minimum get a draw, but that doesn't necessarily mean anything because of how other groups could play out. So it was really refreshing to see both sides, wanting to win. A draw, I think, is the fairest result. You couldn't separate these two sides with a cigarette paper. You really couldn't. It was a fun game, but that playing surface in Frankfurt is still a concern going forward, and it's been talked about a lot at this tournament. And it's not the only playing surface that's had a few question marks raised about how it looks a little bit worn and tired. I think's a good way to describe it, but it is cutting up, and we'll see how the other playing surfaces hold up as the tournament progresses, because we are meant to have, again, more heat, more thunderstorms and more changeable conditions for the rest of the tournament. And also here in the UK as well, the weather's going to change a little bit. It's been quite warm. We've had a bit of a heat wave. We're going to have slightly cooler, more changeable conditions coming across northwest Europe, and the same is going to be in Germany. But there we go. Thank you very much for watching. Place your thoughts on the game below. Romania go in as group winners. Slovakia go through as best third place team. And Ukraine are the first team to get 4 points at a international tournament and not progress to the knockout stages. So there we go. Thank you very much for watching, and I'll have some more content for you guys very, very soon.